Well, Dell gets slammed with downgrades after an earnings miss, and we've got Eric Hesseldahl to tell us all about this. This guy perennially sort of is either the flavor of the month or getting kicked in the head while on the floor.
These earnings misses are sort of becoming a regular thing. What happens is that the analysts begin to think, well, maybe they're beginning to get it turned around, and maybe the higher value enterprise-oriented stuff that tends to bring in more margins is beginning to catch on. But no, there's always something with Dell these days, and yesterday it was a miss and a forward-looking miss on revenue. So they're saying that revenue is going to be down quarter on quarter, 7%, and it's just all a great big mess. And the difficulty in turning the ship. Remember, this used to be the biggest supplier of PCs in the world, and now it's number 2 or 3 behind Hewlett Packard. So it's just having a really hard time making that shift.
What has been the problem? Well, I mean, is it Michael Dell's inability to do the job anymore? Is it that the market's just moving too quickly? Does anyone care about PCs?
It's a combination of things. First of all, the iPad is just doing terrible things to the PC market in general, and Hewlett Packard.
Well, that seems appropriate because PCs used to do terrible things to me in the 90s,
yeah,
and I
so
hated that.
It's about
karma. Payback. Yeah.
It's karma. But what's going on is that tablets, specifically the iPad. I mean, there's really no other tablet worth talking about, are eating into notebook sales, and notebooks are the more profitable machines, and so people are holding back on notebooks. They don't really need new notebooks anymore. The ones that they have are fine, while the iPad is where the action is. So that's hurting Dell and HP and PC sales. Corporate upgrades are kind of weak. Federal spending is kind of weak, and the strategy that Dell has set about trying to transform itself into a more enterprise-focused company, focused on hardware and software and services, large-scale servers and so on, is just not turning out so well.
Let's have a look at what investors think. When you can do this by the proxy of the stock price, today's stock price down about 5%, I understand. Yeah, 5.6% down. Yep. That's just today. That's not good. Look at the year chart. Again, it's the same daily price, but the year chart, it seemed to pick up, and then that dip down at the end is not going to be good.
Yeah, because what happens is they come out with earnings, and then you begin to see some disappointment, and then it begins to work its way back up again, and then once again another disappointment. These earnings disappointments are turning out to be a regular thing.
A regular thing on the disappointments really tends to scare investors away. Investors love consistency, right? They really do. They love consistency of growth, of revenue growth, of earnings growth, of margins growth. I know that also means it can't go on perpetually, but they do like that sort of thing. And if you're consistently missing on that,
yes,
you have a problem with your investors.
Yeah, and that's the fear that a lot of the analysts have, is that they're having a hard time seeing how Dell gets to EPS growth in even the medium term. Short term, definitely not. Medium term. Longer term, it's a question of strategy and whether or not the great big battleship that Dell is. I mean, it's a $60 billion company, and it just has a hard time transforming its business model. As one of the analysts put it today, this is not a trivial thing. It's going to take years, not quarters.
So who's up to the job?
Well,
Leo Apotheker's looking for a job, and he obviously wasn't up to it somewhere else. But
this is supposedly why Michael Dell came back to save the company that bears his name. He was a non-executive
great
chairman.
job.
Yeah, and it's just not happening yet.
It's not happening. Any advice for them on this? I mean, it's a tricky business.
It's an extraordinarily tricky business. I think the strategy, the idea is sound. It's the day-to-day tactical execution. Dell has missed out on certain key acquisitions. It was fighting with HP over I think it was 3PAR.
Shocking.
I mean,
tech companies fighting. I'm shocked.
Oh
my God.
And so it's just going to be a long, hard slog.